do all living things have consciousness? What's your perspective? And with that, do all living things have souls?
I bet you take that one.
I would say, yeah, and I would say everything is conscious. There's different levels of vibrational states to that. I would say even a rock or even a house, in a sense, is conscious. I'd say everything is consciousness, yeah. And I think we don't understand what consciousness is. We think it's brain waves and patterns. I'd say it's far more than that. A soul, I would say, my way of explaining and understanding what a soul is a true thing. It's when a frequency of everything is frequency, everything has its own vibrational state and its own unique frequency. We are human beings. We will have a frequency or resonant field of humanity if you were to measure this, but also, like I call it the snowflake effect. Every single snowflake has a fractal unique pattern which shows the fractal nature of the universe. So then even I have my own unique frequency. Scott, you have your own unique frequency. Ramblers, you do. My table has a unique frequency, and it's different vibrational states to how it's resonating. And once a frequency reaches a stable point, then I would say it gains a soul container. And then we're told with living and dying, death is not the end. We continue we are an energy. We are intelligent energy. Energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed, but it can change forms. And that's actually a beautiful thing. To be stuck, as though I love being Brett, to be stuck for Brett for eternity, I'll quite happily go to another form. So I would say, yeah, everything is consciousness, but it's different states of consciousness. Examples of that, minerals and stones would be a low resonance. So everything's vibrating, everything vibrates. But stones are vibrating very, very slowly. And then you move up a bit higher, and then you go into plant life, trees. Now these have a bit more information and data they can store. They know about the sun, photosynthesis. They can communicate through root systems with fungi and mushrooms connected into the roots. It's almost like a brain. And then you'd move into insects, would be the next higher level of consciousness, which has a singular, very low consciousness, but as a hive can be highly conscious. And then you move into the animal realm, of course, which all the animals would sit on, which we would class as a level 2 consciousness. And then you move into what we would be a level 3 consciousness, which is then you get from sort of going through the system to I. When you reach a point when you realize, and this is happening to animals now, you can see some animals can look in the mirror and they used to think that it's another animal, they attack it, go crazy. Now they're like, oh, it's me, so the consciousness is rising. So once you reach that I awareness, I am Brett, and you realize you and I, then at that point, then you would be classed as a stable frequency. You would gain a soul container, and then all of your experiences on the multi-dimensional level, because consciousness can blaze into other realities and different times, all would be stored into your unique soul container. So I hope that makes some kind of sense.
Oh, it does. But you now going into this, leading into what you're talking about, do you think everything has a soul, like a bug? Do you think a bug has a soul?
Everything has the potential to gain a soul. Though I would say lower levels of consciousness, it's a very fluid experience until you reach that stable point. Once a frequency or consciousness unit or being reaches that point from leaving source until it reaches a stable frequency, and at the point you reach a stable frequency, you gain a soul container. But also because time is an illusion in the sense, that there isn't a start and a beginning. The universe always has existed. That may have changed forms and different vibrations, but there was no beginning to it. It always has existed. So once you reach that, so what I'm getting is once you reach that stable point, I'm a stable soul. I'm a stable frequency. I have a soul. So I'm here. There's previous versions of me from a year ago, from other previous lives, and there's also what people call the higher version of ourselves or higher self. As soon as you reach that stable point, all exists. So yeah, everything has the potential to gain a soul. That doesn't mean everything has a soul in every moment through existence. So I would say like a tree probably hasn't got a soul as we have a soul. So the frequency and energy of that potentially, as it changes form, goes through different experiences, eventually will become extremely stable to the point where a soul will exist. So if that makes sense.
Yeah. Also like people talk about even like, let's say a ghost house is a good example. They say that the house has a soul. So not like a soul like ours. It's not, we're inside this human vessel, our soul leaves. They're not talking about it in that form, but like a rock, like you said, there's these ancient rocks that have souls, like you feel something calling an energy. It would have an energy source because, and then there's testing even on rocks, trees, like you said. Trees, you know, go underground and the roots go and help feed other trees that they can, you know, are compatible with. And a house, you know, going back to that too. People talk about a house has a soul. You can actually feel the house because people leave their energy in that house, and the house has the energy resonance of that person, whether it was something that was horrible going on there or something was happy, because then you have ghost houses and so forth. So yeah, I mean, in a sense, I mean, this is just our perspectives and stuff, but would a rock have a soul? Would a house have a soul? In a sense, I would say yes. That's my own perspective, but and bugs too. I mean, yeah, you can look at some bugs and some, you know, animals, and you see, like Brett was talking about, they know that they're alive. They have a consciousness, you know, they're not just dumb walking around, just walking into walls or anything. So as far as everything having a soul, I would believe animals, definitely. Bugs, I mean, why not? I mean, there's so many different, you know, things on this world. Why are we, you know, making our minds so small and not accepting other things that can be around? Because we're humans. We like to think we know everything, but we don't know everything. So yeah, I agree with Brett on that too, that in a sense there would be possibly souls in almost everything. What else you got?
I would 100% say, Scotty, just to back on that an animal certainly could gain a soul, and so could an insect at a point. But there could be a point when something isn't stable enough to have a soul container yet, but the potential, the infinite potential exists, you know. I wouldn't say that a frequency that comes from source, the source creator, the source of all, you know, the 0 point, single point, whatever you want to call that, God, is born naturally when it first leaves as a soul. But it has the potential to gain a soul, 100%, man, you know. And at one point, well, we might have just been the wind blowing in the air as a frequency, as an energy, you know.